Feminine Energy Week. All throughout my high school years and into college, and even after college, I was obsessed with this idea of people viewing me as a tough person, as a tough individual, as a very capable individual, as, somebody that you don't mess with, things like that. I wanted to be seen as tough and not really needing anybody, like very individualistic. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with being strong, with being capable. Obviously, yes, be strong, be capable. But in order to actually achieve this persona, I'm going to call it, of being a tough girl, I was convinced that I had to eliminate my femininity and lean into my masculinity. I was completely convinced that feminine energy was either weak or that it would simply make me appear weak. I never really felt like a feminine woman was weak. I think I assumed that people would see me as weak if I was a feminine woman. And so that is why I really just smothered and made sure that my feminine energy was non-existent or, invisible to the naked eye. Is femininity actually weak, though? Is feminine energy this weak energy that prevents you from actually acquiring the life that you desire, right? Does it actually give you this aura or this appearance or this persona of a weak individual? I think that feminine energy is oftentimes mistaken for weakness because feminine energy is a very subtle energy, okay? Masculine energy is very much so like in pursuit, right? I mean, when you think of a masculine individual or a masculine man or woman, somebody who is leaning into their masculinity, then what you see is like this hot pursuit, strong, powerful, overwhelming, right? I mean, it's like this very charged energy, we're going to say. It's very charged and very much so this obvious, you can't deny it exists, right? Now, you cannot deny that feminine energy exists, but I think that what feminine energy offers is this intricacy and this subtlety. A lot of times people mistaken that for weakness, okay? And I would really argue that feminine energy is anything but weak, right? If you really look at what feminine energy is, what if we already defined feminine energy as, right? Well, it's this receiving energy, it's this creative energy, and it is this flowing energy. Okay, so number one, it is the energy of magnetism. Okay, so you can simply exist and be in your vibe, right, and receive what it is that you desire because you are able to feel intensely. When it comes to being a feminine woman does not deny feelings, emotions, anything. They can sense a room, right? We are able to sense a room. We're able to walk into a space and be like, this is what's going on in here, right? I feel this is a bad vibe, or this is a good vibe, or I feel good in here. You are able to sense the energy of the room. You are able to feel the emotions of the room, and you are able to take those on, right? You are able to actually absorb them almost. And you are able to create those energies. You are able to create those vibes. You are able to create a good or bad feeling, right? You are able to walk into a room and completely change what a room feels like by your energy, right? If you walk into a room and you are, you're really mad, you're really upset, you're overwhelmed, you're angry, you're, whatever, you're stressed, that's the vibe of the room, right? That's what happens in the room. But if you come into the room and you're like, oh yeah, I'm in a good place, you are able to alter the energy of the room by your energy. What is weak about that? What's weak about that, okay? I think that we peg feminine energy as weakness because it is not results driven. And it is not this flex energy, right? Masculine energy, they get into spitting contests and they flex, and that's what it is, right? I'm going to prove myself. I'm going to be better than you. It's competitive. That's what it is. Whereas this feminine energy is like this foundational, what's the feeling of the environment, right? And I'm going to create the environment, and I'm going to create the feeling, and I'm going to take on the feeling, and I'm going to soothe. It's this subtle, foundational energy. Now, also along those lines of feelings and emotions, we are able to take on emotion, right? We are able to be very empathetic. We are able to, if we see somebody that's really sad, what happens a lot of times when a woman is crying, right? You start crying. If somebody's crying, then you're like, oh my gosh, now I'm crying, right? So we are able to take on a feeling, and we are able to be empathetic. A lot of people would, once again, say, well, that's weakness, right? We just start crying. That's not the case at all. The only way I know how to define this ability for feminine energy, for a woman to really feel and to really take on the emotions of somebody else, is that you are so overwhelmed by feeling. You're so overwhelmed, you can't contain your feeling. I said overwhelmed. I did not say you can't handle it. I did not say you cannot handle feeling. But it is this strong and powerful feeling that it's like you can't help but to express it, right? And so when you are taking on a feeling or you feel something, you are able to understand the weight of a situation. You are able to understand either how happy and wonderful and glorious a situation is, or how heavy and hard and difficult a situation is, right? When you are leaning into that feminine energy, then you are able to understand. You are able to take on those feelings, and you are able to be empathetic about somebody else's situation or about your own situation. I don't think that anybody is created to do something that they are unprepared for. And so I think that sort of the beauty of being a woman and being a feminine woman is that you are able to handle these emotions. How are you able to handle it? Well, you cry, right? You cry. You're able to slot it in your mind. You're able to deal with it. You're able to process it, right? You're able to help other people process it, right? There's a lot of times where, say there's somebody that, they don't feel safe to cry, but when they are around somebody that is safe to cry around, or that is crying, then they are able to process it better, right? When they are around somebody that's able to process an emotion or a heavy feeling, then they are able to process their heavy feelings, right? And so I think that, sort of the part of the role of femininity and feminine energy is this ability to handle and process this heaviness and these emotions and these overwhelming feelings, right? These feelings that it's like, that's a lot. That is a lot, right? And that you are able to help other people process those emotions. You are safe to be around to process those emotions, right? You are safe to cry around. You are safe to handle these emotions because you are invitational. You are a comforter in some fashion, right? Maybe you're not like, oh, give me a hug, right? Maybe you're not like that. I'm not like that. But you're safe, right? You're safe because people feel safe. People feel safe to process their emotions around a very feminine individual in general. I think that there is another element, right? Obviously, I've talked a lot about emotion, and I think that there is another element that a lot of people do not think about. And, a feminine woman is oftentimes seen, as, maybe she's very soft-spoken. Maybe she is, like we said, subtle. She is intricate. She might be considered more delicate, right? That's sort of the vibe that a feminine woman might give off, right? And something that I've observed and that I've sort of come to the conclusion about over the last few months and probably the last year actually, is that, women are a more intricate, delicate species. I mean, in general, right? Like, we're not, in general, as strong as a man. We're not, built like a man. We don't, right? Like, we're different. We're different. And that is completely okay, and that's the way it's supposed to be. But don't you think that somebody who is intricate and who sees intricacies and who is able to handle intricate and delicate situations, I think that they are perfectly prepared to handle those challenging situations, those delicate situations, those situations that it's like, okay, like we can't just go in there, guns blazing. That's not going to work. I think that a woman who has tapped into her femininity and who has accepted this sort of position of more intricacy, more delicacy, more softness about her. I think that somebody who has really stepped into that and has accepted that into her life is perfectly prepared to handle some of the most delicate situations in the world, right? You are able to, once again, sort of create the energy in the room. You are able to figure out what the issue is. You are able to communicate and keep in mind all feelings, on all sides. You are able to handle delicate situations because you see the intricacies. You don't only see the right and wrong, black and white, right? You see those hazy gray middles that it's like, okay, I understand this stuff. I see all the little specks of dust in there, and I see all of the intricacies, and I see both sides, and I see how I can understand how both sides feel, and I understand that. And so you're able to navigate these incredibly delicate situations, right? Do you see that? Do you see how that is powerful? That is not weak. I don't look at that and think, oh, what weakness, right? I mean, there are so many situations in the world or in businesses or in families where it's like, if only there was somebody, third party or not, that was in the situation that was paying attention to the intricacies of the situation, to the delicate nature of the situation. And as a feminine woman, that is your superpower. As a feminine woman, you are able to approach a situation and navigate it, right? You're able to navigate the feelings. You're able to navigate how delicate of a situation it is. There's so many times where it's like, okay, like when my sister and I would argue or, whatever it is, right? Where my dad would see black and white, right? Like, you're both wrong. This is dumb. Why are you fighting, right? Whereas my mom, right, she would approach a situation and be like, okay, why are you fighting? What's going on? I see and understand both sides. Neither one of you is right, right? And she was able to actually navigate the situation, right? She's not, you're not coming in and just tackling the situation, but you're listening to the situation. And you are able to process it and handle it, not battle it. You're not, guns blazing after it, but you are able to handle it and process the situation, which I look at and I think that is not weakness, right? That is anything but weakness. And so whether you are, oh, I want to start a business or I want to, climb the corporate ladder or whatever it is, please do not be smothering your feminine energy, because that is precisely what we need. You need to learn how to communicate with a man. No questions asked in any situation. That is, yes, they communicate differently. But you shouldn't be smothering your feminine energy, because that is precisely what you need. Imagine the power you would have if you were able to approach a heated meeting and you were the only one in the room who was able to actually get it figured out. Imagine how powerful that would be. Imagine how powerful it would be for you to be the one who is able to sense the room, feel the room, navigate the room. There is nothing weak about that, right? You are an asset. You are an asset when you are tapping into your ability to actually navigate the room, navigate life, navigate situations, and be empathetic to other people, be empathetic to other people's situations, and be empathetic to the situation at hand, right? Good or bad. And so when it comes to, is feminine energy weak? Is feminine energy weak? I would argue that it is intricate. It is intricate it is softer, and it is more delicate. And it is created that way not to be weak, but to sort of weave into the cracks of a situation, to weave into, right? We're pliable. We're able to get in and understand. And that is where this intricacy, this delicacy, and this softness, that is the power of having those traits. There is nothing weak about that, right? You are able to get into, right? You're able to get in the dirt. You're able to roll around in the mud here. You're able to get into the cracks, and you're able to understand. And you are able to do something about it and process it and handle it. There's absolutely nothing weak about that. If you are interested in learning more about feminine energy and learning about the number one misconception about feminine energy, I actually have a video that I recently posted all about the number one misconception that feminine energy has around it. So go check that out. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this video. I love you oh so very much. And until we meet again, so long.